Hello, welcome back. So in my last video, I spoke about extend report and how we can generate it via listeners, then take the screenshots and attaching the failed screenshot to the report. In this video, I'm going to have one more, let's say, standalone scenario, which is verify the drop-down contents for model drop-down. So let's say I have one of the test case in my general test called as verify the drop-down contents. Okay, and the steps are like navigate to the application, go to the motorcycle link, click on model drop down and verify the content of model drop down, and the contents should be these many. Okay, that's what my requirement is, that's what my test case is. So how I am going to work on this particular test case? Okay, let me go to my test. I'll put it into same this error test case. Okay, ideally you should create a separate class for this as well. For error related test cases, you will be creating separate class, whereas for general scenarios like this, you can create another class. For end-to-end scenarios, I'll have another class. You can have it, but let it be. Okay, because I'm not going to cover all the scenarios, right? Not all the test cases, only few test cases I'm going to talk. So what I'll do is I'll create one test case over here, public void verify model drop down options. That's it. And here, so this is my test case. I'll annotate with @test so that it will look as a test case. And now I have three test cases over here, right? And I don't want to, for now, for my trial purpose, I don't want to execute all three, right? I just want to execute the current one, right? So for other two test cases, I will have one option for test ng called as enabled is equal to false, so that these test cases will not get executed. I'll say enabled is equal to false. And for my test case which I want to execute, I'll put enabled is equal to true. Okay, so that only this particular test case will get executed. Okay, so now let's start. So now what are my steps? My objective is to compare the drop down content. What is my first step is navigate to application. That is pretty common, right? And then it is going to be click on motorcycle, link. Then next step is going to be get, because it is present under this motorcycle link, right? Motorcycle link. And if I inspect that particular option, let's say model drop down, you see I'm having lot many options. The drop down values basically, please select scooter, three-wheeler, moped and motorcycle, right? I want to verify these values basically, and that's what I have in my test case. I want to verify that whether all these values are present into my drop down or not. Okay, so these test case can be common, right? So for make drop down also you need to verify. Let's say for other drop downs, let's say for number of seats you might need to verify, so that could be very much common into the web application to verify the drop down content. Okay, proceeding further, second step is going to be get drop down content. And the third one is going to be uh, what is my expected values, and finally compare, right? And how I am going to compare it using assert, using test engines assert. So the very first thing, click on motorcycle link. So I already know how to click on motorcycle link, right? So by using this homepage object, I can simply click on motorcycle link. Pretty simple. How to get the drop down content? Okay, so before I work on this, let me proceed with further steps, because this is only one line, right? And for this again I need to write some method. Now where are my expected values? Okay, and how I am going to compare it? So currently my particular drop down has only 5 values, right? Scooter, motorcycle, motorcycle and please select. So these are only 5 values. But for previous drop down, you see there are 12, 13 values. For other drop downs there would be 20, 30, 40 values, right? Could be. So how are we going to verify it? I cannot verify it one by one, I cannot compare it one by one. That is going to be lengthy and time taking as well. Rather, I'll follow the very simple approach. I will put them into a list, right? So what I'll do is either list, you can put into the list, map or set or any collection object, but for me the simplest one what I see for this specific purpose is using list. Okay, so what I'll do is I will put all of them into one list, and all these values are of type string. So what I'll do is let me create one list of string. Okay, and I'll say expected expected options, let's say expected values, I'll say expected values is equal to now how we are going to put all these values into the list. So these are my expected values. Okay, how are we going to put into a list? Okay, so if you are a beginner, you might be thinking like, okay, we can do something like new array list and do something like this, and then we will add it one by one, so that I will have all my data into the list. You will add something like motorcycle over here, then in the second line you will add it as a mopped or something like that, right? You might be thinking like this, but this is not a feasible option. If I have lot many values into my drop down, let's say 20 values, I cannot add this, I cannot have this add statement 20 times. What is more feasible approach in my case? Okay, so in my case, I'm going to use one of the method which is present into this arrays class. Arrays dot, there is a method called as list. There are a couple of ways to handle it. Okay, in collections as well, we have some method. In list as well, we have some method for doing the same operations. Okay, so I'm using it from arrays. The method name is as list. Okay, and I already have the things. So the things you need to put it as is in a string format which are separated by comma, and that's how I have added, and that's it. I have created a list of expected values. Okay, and so and now we are going to get the actual list, right? Again, it is going to be of type list of string, and it is going to be, let's say, actual values. Okay, and so this is something which we need to talk now, how to get the actual values. And once we got this actual values list and expected values list, we are going to compare it simply by using assertion. So I'll say assert dot assert equal, and what is my actual values? Actual values are this, expected values are this. And just to make it as a little meaningful, I will say, in case if there is any error, I'll say error in uh, drop down options compare at model drop down, so that I can understand on which specific drop down I have this issue. Okay, assertion part is completed, expected part is completed. Now we are remaining with actual part, how to get the list of string values from the options or the drop down. Now, if you are working with the drop down, you know that if the drop down is coded using select tag, right? Select tag. Then in order to work with that, we are going to use something called as select class. Okay. Okay. So if you see the drop down structure, you see lot many options, right? So these options are nothing but the actual values which get displayed into the drop down list as a content, right? So what we want is we want these values, these string values basically, right? So if you have worked on drop down in Selenium, right, we should know something about select class, right? So what we are going to do is using select class, we are going to get all the options which are present into particular drop down, right? So for that, we are going to create a common method, not a common method, but yeah, one method which is specific to particular web page, right? Because this particular test case which we are working on is specific to enter vehicle data page, right? And for enter vehicle data page, we have a page objects over here, enter vehicle data page objects, right? For which we have already earlier created some method like enter vehicle, sorry, this one, enter cylinder capacity, get error message on cylinder capacity, something like that, right? So I'll create one more method called as public void get options, let's say get uh, drop down options underscore, I'll say model drop down or model simply. Okay, and that's it. So this is my, let's say, one method. In this particular method, I want to get the webel drop down content basically into the list, right? And for drop down, I have already this web element, right? dd underscore model, right? So I'm going to use this particular web element which we have identified earlier. Okay, so as I told, we are going to use something called a select class. So I'll say select and any reference. Okay, any reference name. Let's say uh, I'll say select, or could be anything. Okay, I'll say OS is equal to new select, and I would be passing the web element. My web element is dd underscore model. Okay, and now if I do os dot, okay, I have some method called as get options. Okay, so if you see, the return type of this get options method is a list of web element. So let me select this. I know that this particular method is going to return me a list of web element. That means all the web elements which are present into this particular uh, model drop down. So I have web element for, please select web element for scooter, web element for three wheeler, and so on. Right. So what I'll do is I will store uh, the content of this get options method, that is list of web element, into a list of web element, and I'll say list of web element underscore model dropdown. Could be any meaningful name. Okay, and that's it. So now this is not the actual list which I'm going to use for comparison, because in earlier case I have the list of string values, actual string values, and here what I'm getting is I'm getting the list of web element. If you print it, you will see, you will not be able to read it. Basically it is going to be a some web element, right? So you may not correlate it what it is for. It is a web element. Now how to retrieve the text out of web element using get text method, right? So what I'll do is, and again this is a list of web element, right? So again, how to retrieve the content from list of web element? First I need to iterate over that particular list, right? So for iteration I can use either for loop, or I can prefer using for each loop. I do prefer using for each loop. So on the right hand side of this colon, I have actual field, actual object basically, on which I need to iterate. And on the left hand side, what type of objects are present into this particular object, and then any reference name. I'll say ref. Right now if you do ref dot, you will be having some method called as get text, which gives me the actual text out of web element. Right now this will give me text one by one. How can I put them into the list? Right, so what I'll do is I will create one more list, and this time the list is going to be of type string, because uh, give me a second, it should be actual, I'll say model contents, or I'll say actual contents is equal to, now this time it has to be the array list, right? And it should be of type string, right? And this is the place where I'm going to put it one by one, right? So I'll simply use the add method, and this is closing. Now let me reiterate quickly on this. So first I have created the object of select class for the web element called as model. Then by using get options method, we can get all the options which are present into the drop down in the form of web element. Once we got the list of web element, then what I will do is, this is the list of web elements basically, right? So I cannot compare it with my string list. So I will iterate over the web element list. This is where I'm iterating, right? And out of that web element list I can use a method called as get text method. So now in the first iteration I will get the value called as please select, right? That's what we have, please select. In the second iteration I'll get scooter, and so on, right? So one by one I'm going to put them into the newly defined list of type string called as actual content, and this is something which I should return out of this particular method. I return this, right? And I should change the return type of this particular method as list of string. Pretty simple. Okay, now here I have uh, let me call that method, right? And how to call that method? Where it is present in enter vehicle data page. For enter vehicle data page I already have created the object which is vehicle data. You need to refer my earlier videos for this, right? I'll call the method called as get drop down options model, and that's it. Okay, and that's pretty simple. Click on motorcycle link, get the content, these are my expected content, and assertion. Pretty simple. Let me quickly execute. Okay, before I execute, uh, I can log some information into my report as well, right? So how can I add the information into the report? i, I have talked one example last time by using this test object. This test object is of type extend test, which we have defined in object repo. All right, so what I'll do is I will say here Yeah, let's say I want to put this actual values into my report, so that I will understand what was the actual values into my drop down, right? How can I put that? By using the test object, because that's the global object. I'll use the method called as log method. And what's the status? I am going to put it as info, because this is just the informative content, not pass fail or something like that. And I'll say something like actual drop down contents for model dropdown is, and I missed colon. Okay, so this is how. Okay, so this is for actual, right? I can put for expected as well. What I'll do is, whatever I was expecting, I will put for that as well. So let's say these are my expected values. I'll put it over here as expected. Pretty simple, right? Now let me execute my test engine.xml. I'm executing it from test engine.xml because my report will not get generated if I'm directly right clicking on uh, the class, basically, because the report is getting generated via listeners, and listeners will get called via test engine.xml. Only in my case, we can invoke them from class as well, but we need to put it in each and every class, so we did add it into test engine.xml. Okay, and you see test ng run, one test case is passed. We ran only one test case. Now I'm interested into report. Let me refresh project, and a new report got generated here. And here is my report. You see, whatever name we have given, it took only uh, 2 seconds. Okay, and so it will take the time of 2 seconds from when you have started logging, basically the first logging or the instance when you have created this test case, from that point, right? Not from launching the browser, because from launching the browser we did not add it that, right? So yeah, actual drop down content is this, expected is this, and that's it. My test case is executed successfully. Great. So yeah, so that's how we can verify the drop down options. Okay, now what I did is, so I can remove this particular comment now. Okay, it looks bit odd with all these comments. In real time we should have the comment, but again it should be very meaningful and properly organized. Okay, so now the main important point in this particular example was how to get this drop down options, and for this we have created one method, right, for model drop down. Let's say tomorrow someone asks me to verify the drop down content for make drop down, right? What I'll do is, I can simply repeat this particular stuff, and I'll create its name as, let's say, make, and I will call this make drop down, and make, and here I will pass the object as, let's say, make, and that's it will work, right? So now here you see, right? So this particular complete code is duplicated, right? There is no point in duplicating this code, right? So what I'll do is, rather than repeating this particular method, what I'll do is, I will create one common method for this particular stuff, right? I'll simply copy this content. In fact, I will cut it, and I will go into my let's say reusable component, and here I will create one class called as common methods. Okay, and under this common methods I will create one common method as public void, let's say, get uh, drop down options as, let's say, list, and I'm going to put that complete code over here. Now how to get this web element? I don't know the web element. The web element is present into respect to web pages, right? So what I'll do is, whenever someone is going to call me, I'm going to ask them, please pass me the web element. I'll say web, please pass me this web element with the name called as element. I'll simply pass the element name over here, and now this particular method is used to get uh, web element, sorry, get drop down options as list of string for compare. Pretty simple, right? And its return type should be a list of string, because we are returning a list of string out of this, right? And in my actual method, What should I return now? Okay, see, we have created that particular method into common methods. So for common methods, what we will do is so what we can do is I can create a object of this common methods class here itself. But since I need to access it on multiple pages, right, on multiple pages I might need to access it, so I will create it in object repo here itself. I'll say public common methods, cm is equal to new common methods. Pretty simple, right? Now by using this cm object, this object reference cm, I am going to call cm dot get drop down options as a list. And for what web element it is for, this time it is for model. Right, let's say for next time you want to make it for make drop down, you will simply call this particular method. You need not to repeat the code, right? And what it says, yeah, I should return this basically, right? So I can store it into a list and then return, or I can simply return this particular statement itself, so that I need not to write one more extra line. Right, pretty simple. Now if tomorrow I want to verify the content for make drop down, I'll simply do something like this: create a method called as for make, and here I will replace it with make. Pretty simple. Yeah, so that's how we can reuse the method. So here we did created one common method, and yeah, so in for next scenarios onwards, where we are going to talk about our data driven scenarios, we are going to create lot many common methods for handling drop downs, radio buttons, checkboxes, and all other stuff. Okay, so that's it. So this was pretty simple test case over here, and yeah, stay tuned. Thank you.